It's all yours, Sandy.
Okay, well, good morning, and I hope my crew, Carolyn and Liz, will be able to share the presentation slides anytime would be a good time to start. Um,
Okay.
to,
Liz,
to,
Liz said she would, so
okay.
there we go.
And Gary, I am going to ask if a chat comes in, can you please interrupt and read it to me because I won't be able to see the chat just
Yes.
because of my vision. Okay, so okay, this was, I was wondering if the other PDF could be started or I could do it this way. That there was a second PDF that had more slides. This is a handout for afterwards. But regardless, I'm going to start talking. And I'm here from the Prevention of Blindness Society, which has several programs. It serves the metropolitan Maryland, District of Columbia, Virginia area. And I'm also going to speak about one of their programs in particular that focuses on low vision resources. So, Prevention of Blindness Society, perfect. We're rocking and rolling now. Okay. Next slide, please. They okay, back up. Yeah. So the Prevention of Blindness Society has been in existence for about 90 years, and they're dedicated to the improvement and preservation of sight and quality of life by providing services and education. So that's their main mission, their goal. And next slide, please. They do this through several programs. Their biggest program is the children's vision screening, and they do this in public schools, mostly in the elementary school age. Uh, and that's a time where children, often their vision issues crop up, and they may not realize it because when you're looking out at the world, you think what you see is normal and your teachers might not notice it, your parents might not notice it. So this is a third way to observe children, with quick measurements of eye conditions to assess whether they need glasses, whether they need to see a doctor for further help. So that's one of the biggest missions of the Prevention of Blindness Society. They also have adult glaucoma screening programs. And this emphasis is because the metropolitan area, especially DC, has a higher than average prevalence of glaucoma than the United States on average. And glaucoma is, the sooner it's detected, the sooner that disease can be slowed down and managed so that you don't lose more sight, hopefully. No 100% guarantees, but medications can help glaucoma. Then there's the low vision resources, and there's myself. I work part-time. Tara Aziz is the leader of it. We also have Joe Awkward, Edlin, and Rachel, who all work in low vision resources. And we all have experience with low vision, limited vision, legal blindness for many years or our whole lives. So we speak from experience, although we don't have medical training. We have a lot of boots on the ground. We've been living it, we've been dealing with it, and we can help give advice and share information. Um, Prevention of Blindness has a glasses clinic for people who can't afford glasses, and glasses have become astronomically expensive these days. You can get a vision exam and glasses, and I think the cost is on the order of about $40 if you're economically, you can't afford glasses. This can help you. And then they have their shops, their thrift shops, one in Kensington, Maryland, one in Alexandria, where this is a little bit of a fundraiser. It generates money for prevention of blindness, and they get donations from furniture, china, knickknacks, clothes. Every time I take something, I buy something. So I'm not making much progress cleaning out my house, but then volunteers are always welcome at Prevention of Blindness Society. And I think I saw something pop up. Was that a chat question or my computer having issues?
No, Steve just put up the Prevention of Blindness Society's website.
Oh, okay. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Um, so I wanted to introduce myself a little bit so that you know where I'm coming from. So I was born legally blind, but could actually see quite a bit, sort of on the edge of legal blindness. Graduated from Harvard with a degree in geology, worked at the U.S. Geological Survey out here in Reston for 32 years. And when I retired, after a couple of years, I realized that eating brownies and staying at home was not going to do it for me, and I needed some other outlet. So one thing and another, I started volunteering for a low vision optometrist in Alexandria. You all may have heard of him, Dr. Suleiman Alibi. Then I started leading the Reston VIP support group because Gloria Sussman at age 90 something said, I think it's time for me to retire from this gig, and handed it over to me and Stan Gowan. Then I started working part-time for Prevention of Blindness Society in 2018. I give lectures, low vision community outreach. And in 2 years ago, 2022, I was accepted on to the Metro Accessibility Advisory Committee as a volunteer, giving insights on how's Metro doing in terms of a person who has challenges seeing things, how do I navigate their Metro system? So more chat questions or comments?
Well, somebody's saying that you were talking about screening children. This person says when they were in elementary school, one of their teachers noticed they were squinting. They didn't remember having vision problems, but they've worn glasses ever since. And the same thing with their oldest son. And she asks, do the schools around here do any basic vision testing as a matter of course?
I think that's here and there. So several schools in DC have the Prevention of Blindness Society do the vision screening, and this year POB, it's easier to say than Prevention of Blindness. POB wrote and got a grant to work in Prince George's County in the school system. So that's a huge additional set of work for POB. A lot of people, wealthier people who have good health insurance and stay on top of doctor's appointments, yes, their children may be, get vision screening from annual checkups, but in the more impoverished, more economically challenged neighborhoods, I think is the main focus for POB school age screening. Okay, so next slide. So what is low vision? I'm going to try to describe that both sort of from medical explanation about vision and functional explanation about low vision. Next slide. So in medical terms, vision is a continuum. You're lucky you were born with 20/20 vision, which means you can see at 20 feet what a person with normal vision can see at 20 feet. Well, if there's something wrong with your corneas or your lenses or the shape of your eyeball, that can generally be corrected with a pair of glasses, and you may be back up to 20/20 vision, which is awesome. But then there's low vision, where your vision can't be corrected. It's a little bit of a fuzzy thing. Some people say, well, low vision starts at 20/70. You can see at 20 feet what a person with normal vision can see at 70 feet, but it's not hard and fast. Then there's legal blindness, which I have, which the cutoff for legal blindness is 2200 with the best correction in your better eye. So you can see at 20 feet, I can see at 20 feet with my best glasses what a person with normal vision can see at 200 feet. I tend to think of it more like I can see at 2 feet what someone with normal vision can see at 20 feet. So I have a hard time recognizing faces. And then there's blindness. At the end of the spectrum, it may be that there's no light perception at all. And I consider myself very fortunate to be in the legal blindness category where I do have a lot of vision. I don't see colors well. I don't see details well because of various conditions in my eye. But I have lived a pretty awesome life. I can't complain. So causes for low vision include aging, hair may turn gray, my knees click and clack, and it's harder for me to walk. I don't hear as well as I used to, and I can tell my vision is going downhill a little bit too. Cataracts are quite common as you age, but generally those are correctable with surgery. It's the most common surgery in the United States. There's macular degeneration, where the macula in your eye, which is responsible for seeing detail and predominantly color, is detected at your macula. If that deteriorates, it makes it harder to see. And my condition kind of mimics macular degeneration, although it isn't technically. You may have an inherited eye disease, either glaucoma or diabetes may be inherited. Glaucoma is a disease that attacks and destroys the optic nerve. You generally lose peripheral vision first. Diabetes may cause leakage and scarring on the retina so that parts of your vision field can't pick up vision anymore. And there's also trauma to the eye, stroke in your eye, blood doesn't get to your eye temporarily or permanently, or accidents, injuries, sharp, sudden damage to your eye. Those are all causes of low vision or even worse. Anyway, I see more questions.
Yes, somebody wanted to know, is macular degeneration genetic? And if not, what causes it?
So it is somewhat genetic if there's close blood relatives in your family who have macular degeneration. You are at a bit higher risk, but macular degeneration, there's no specific cause, I don't believe. Factors that can increase the risk of macular degeneration or other damage to your retina include smoking, a lot of UV light from the sun, and unhealthy diet, in the sense that a healthy diet can help decrease the risk. So eating a lot of leafy green vegetables, omega-3 acid, fish, just what's good for your heart is good for your eyes kind of diet. Exercise is important so that blood is still flowing and oxygen is getting to all parts of your body, including your brain and the optic nerve and everything that is involved in vision. But there's no clear cut. Nobody can look at you and say, oh, you're going to have macular degeneration, but there are risk factors. Okay, there were other
A
questions.
couple of questions about people who only have vision in one eye. Are they considered low vision? And what about driving?
Okay, the vision thing is you only get to count the best eye. If the other eye can't see at all, the question is, are you low vision in the eye that you can see with? If you don't have any vision in one eye, but you do in the other, it often leads to challenges with depth perception because you don't have two eyes looking at an object to see how to sort of do parallax and figure out how far away it is. But my best friend, who lost one eye when she was 6 years old, she's got pretty good depth perception because she learned about depth perception while she still had two eyes. So the older you are, if you lose vision in one eye, it might not make all that much difference with depth perception, but then again, it might. And the other part of the question was,
What about driving?
oh,
Somebody,
driving. Yeah, different states have different rules, and I don't know all the rules. But my friend who only has one eye, she's got a driver's license, and in Virginia, it's just if you can pass the vision test with your eye that can see, and I think that might be true across the whole United States. Please don't quote me on that. Okay, next slide. So changes in vision may or may not occur with age. No guarantees. Let's all hope for the best. Decline in vision can be gradual, and people may not even realize they're functionally low vision. You know, it can be so gradual from one day to the next or 1 week to the next. You don't notice it. You know, for me, I have to stop and think, how well could I see when I was a teenager? And my vision decline since I was a kid has been very gradual. I'm very lucky on that front. But a lot of people who have reached the point that they are low vision, and I'll get to a bit more of a description about that in a second, um, you know, they pretend they can see. And that's because they don't want people judging them or commenting about it all the time. And then there's people who are low vision and they're just flat out in denial. They may not realize they can't see, or they realize they can't see, but they don't want to own up to it. And there are a lot of people who still have a driver's license that shouldn't have a driver's license. This is probably one of the biggest issues with declining vision and denial. Changes in vision can be rapid, and people may be thrown into a panic and frustrated and grasping for resources and Googling the heck out of their computer, buying gadgets left, right, and center. And those gadgets may not be helpful to them, but I mean, they're just like, I want my vision back. I want my vision back. I want my vision back. And they're not being logical and methodical about it. And it can be as trivial as you walk into your doctor's office and he says, oh, you have macular degeneration. And you have no clue what the impact and consequences of that are. You go home and you're like, well, what do we do? What do I do? What do I do? And I recently heard a story about a friend of a friend who walked into a doctor's office and the doctor said, you're not legal to drive. And they could, I believe, take your driver's license away, but generally speaking, they do not do that. They just say, they give you the lecture, you know, how would you feel if you hit somebody? You got a blind spot, you're not seeing everything. But that taking a driver's license away is a really, really tough issue. But learning that you have low vision, trying to figure out what to do with it, that can be a really stressful time in your life. And I hope all your friends and family give you a lot of compassion and cut you a lot of slack as you struggle with figuring out, what do I do now? Okay, next slide. So what is low vision? It's really a functional term. Low vision impacts your daily life. That is the way to think about it. So in your daily life, and we're going to do this like a quiz, think about yourself or think about a friend or brother or sister or somebody that you're worried, is their vision such that they're not seeing as well as they used to? Should I be worried? Should I be giving suggestions? How can I help? So think about it as a quiz. And I'm going to ask 4 questions and then 4 more. So for these, if you answer no, it's a clue that you have low vision. Can you drive? Can you drive at night safely? And I'm, you know, yeah, going to the drugstore, you know, 1 block away that you've done 100,000 times, that doesn't count. Can you get out on a highway and drive? Can you read newspapers and books? And I mean regular print books. I'm not talking about the teeny tiny print on medicine bottles. I'm talking about regular sized print. Can you still read that easily? Or is it just such a pain in the neck you don't do it anymore? Can you recognize faces? Can you even see expressions on people's faces? I can't see somebody's face or their expression unless I'm like 6 inches away from their face, or, you know, and I've heard many, many people with low vision say, I can't see my friends' faces anymore. And when they're 10 feet away, and I'm like, well, I never could, but there's other ways to recognize people. Can you see steps to walk downstairs safely? Can you see those edges of steps? Now, if you said, nope, can't do that, those are all clues to low vision. Okay, next slide. There's a little bit more of the quiz here, the functional, your daily life. So these are going to be, if you answer yes to these, it's a clue you have low vision. So, did you quit doing hobbies? Crocheting, knitting, sewing, uh, scrapbooking, woodworking, because you can't see well enough to feel comfortable doing it. Do you struggle to watch TV? Are you asking the person on the sofa next to you all the time, who was that who just, what just happened? Which is perfectly legitimate question, but it's a clue that you're not seeing things very well. Have you tripped or fallen because you didn't see something? Somebody moved a chair in your house. You have it memorized where all your dining room chairs are, but somebody came over and turned a dining room chair around to sit in it and they didn't put it back, and you trip on it because you're working from memory, not from seeing that chair. And do you struggle with depth perception? And depth perception, you can think of it as not necessarily throwing a baseball, but when you're pouring liquid, do you miss the glass when you're pouring it into the glass? Do you have trouble figuring out where to put your feet when you're walking downstairs? Those are sort of depth perception kind of questions. Okay, there's another check.
Says even bifocals can affect downward vision, steps, curbs.
I believe so. I believe getting used to bifocals. I've never had bifocals because my prescriptions are so strong. It would be a real challenge to make them. But yes, I've heard everybody who has bifocals say it's a trick to learn how to look close, look far. And that is a challenge. And that's a safety issue too. If you can't learn how to do it, maybe you should have two separate pairs of glasses, which is what I'm encouraging my husband to do. He's been toying with the idea of bifocals, but each to his own. Everybody's vision is different. You got to figure out what works for you. Okay, so I'm going to go on to talk about people with low vision, their perspective of life. How do they navigate their world and their daily life safely, and what are some of their challenges? And then we'll talk about people who have normal vision, how they can help somebody with low vision, because this concept of the neighborhood villages, neighbors villages around the DC area and the Arlington Neighbors Village, you work on this volunteer helping each other system. So I'm going to go first from the perspective of a low vision person and their struggles, and then the perspective of a person with good vision who can help somebody with low vision. Okay, next slide. So, unfamiliar situations. When I'm at my home in a familiar situation, I am good to go. When I am going to a metro stop I've been to before, I can just about walk through it with my eyes closed. But you put me in an unfamiliar situation, I'm in a little bit of a panic. It's like I'm out of my comfort zone. I have to stop and take a deep breath. Yesterday, I had an Uber ride to a place I'd never been before, a wellness center where I was giving a presentation. And I'm like, looked online to look at the shape of the building. The dot that implied the door was on one side. No, it was on it. The street address was on the other side, but the actual door was at the corner. So I'm sort of flubbing around a little bit with my white cane, trying to figure out where to walk in, but I got there. Then there's, if you're going to a doctor's office, you're going to a restaurant, you're taking a taxi, you're hopping on public transportation where you haven't been, it's unfamiliar territory. That's when it gets really challenging if you have low vision, because it takes so long to figure out what you're seeing. Where are you? What's going on? So when you go from outdoors to indoors, there can be dramatic change in lighting, and it may take a few seconds, 30 seconds for the light, your eyes to adjust to the new light. And in the meantime, you might be standing there looking like, you have, like you don't know what you're doing because you don't want to move and trip over something, which is what I do. And I try to sort of step aside so I'm not run over by the next person coming in the door. You may, as soon as you walk in, there may be patterns on the floor. And sometimes, especially fancy office buildings and doctor's offices, there may be a step. You may think that the pattern on the floor is a step, or you may think the step is a pattern on the floor. So you have to stop and be careful that the floor is level or there's a step. Shadows from bright sunlight, drive me bananas. Shadows, I mistake outdoors and even through windows indoors. Is the floor level? Is the sidewalk level? Is that a hole, or is that a shadow from a branch of a tree? And steps are just always a challenge. When I walk into a doctor's office, it's usually hilarious for the first time because I can't see the signs where to go. I can't figure out where the reception desk is. And even if I could find the signs, they're usually in print so small I can't read them anyway. I'm just going to finish this and then we'll get to the chat. So you may have difficulty seeing the forms to fill out. And if you ask for help to fill forms out, be sure to ask for help in a private way. If a friend has gone with you, they can help fill out forms, but be sure to maintain privacy. Don't be shouting out somebody's email and name and birthday out loud in a waiting room at a doctor's office. Reading menus. Yeah, you can read menus online before you go to a restaurant. Maybe, kind of, sort of, but maybe you want a refresher when you get there. My husband's really a sweetheart about reading me menus. These are just challenges. You can't see the staff or their faces, expressions. I can't tell what waiters are trying to say to me when they come to the table. And I can't see, the receptionist at the doctor's office. I'll start talking to them. They don't answer. I get into sentence number 2. They don't answer. Maybe they finally wave at me and I realize, oh, they're trying to get my attention. Well, they were on the phone the whole time and I didn't know they had a phone up to their ear. I don't see hand gestures and, this way, please, with a gesture, or just over there with a gesture. It's much better. My life is much simpler when the staff says, just follow me. Okay, there's a question.
Well, there's a comment.
Okay.
This is somebody that's taken people to doctor's appointments, and they've said, relating to what you said about going into a doctor's office for the first time, they said even eye doctors' offices are a bit clueless when they have somebody with low vision problems. You walk in the first time, and they hand you a clipboard with 6 pages of forms to fill out. So,
I hear you. I hear you. And I've been shocked at how doctors' offices don't accommodate people with low vision. I've even started speaking up and leaving my business card and saying, I lead a low vision support group. Anyway, life is, as one of my bosses used to say, life just isn't fair, Sandy. And he's right. So let's go to the next slide. Now, from the perspective of a person who can see, who's trying to help somebody who can't see so well. And we'll go to the next slide. And really, the Neighbors Network Villages is a great way to help friends and neighbors. So, ways to offer help. Always ask somebody, do they want help? Don't tell them, you need help or I'm going to help you. Give them the opportunity to say yes or no, because some of us low vision people are very stubbornly independent and want to do it ourselves whenever possible. So always offer help. Don't just say, I'm going to do this for you. Say, would you like me to fill out the form? And chances are pretty good. A person with low vision would say, oh, thank you. Yes, that would be very helpful. Offer your arm to hold. Don't grab a person's arm who's having trouble seeing. Offer them your arm. Let them put their hand around your arm in what we call a C grip, that they just are hanging on to loosely. And you, the well-sighted person, walk a step or a half a step in front. And yes, say step up, step down at a curb. You can give verbal clues, but your body language will also give verbal clues. As you're saying step up, your whole body will go up that step. And that clue, that motion tactile clue can be very helpful for people too. Offer rides for errands and to doctor's appointments. Yes, 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 yes. But don't be offended when somebody says no. Like I said, we're stubbornly independent, or we might have other things going on. And no, we don't want to go to the grocery store with you today, but we might love to go with you the next time you offer. So if you say, don't have your feelings hurt if we say no, but say, okay, I'll ask you next time. Um, and the worst of the worst of the worst is when you say, and I know you can't see, but, and then you describe something. This drove my oldest sister absolutely bananas. I had two sisters who were legally blind at birth and one sister with normal vision. And I didn't know how much this bugged my older sister until she was, I don't know, 50 years old, and she was explaining this to me. My mother would say, there's a beautiful field of flowers. I know you can't see them. They're yellow flowers, and then there's these purple flowers on spikes. My sister would have much preferred if my mother had just said, there's a beautiful field of flowers. There's some gorgeous yellow ones and purple ones on spikes, and left out the whole implication, discussion, connotation that my sister couldn't see. Just be a verbal describer for people who can't see. My well-sighted sister was good at this. My best friend growing up was good at this. My best friend now is good at this. Maybe that's why they're my best friends. They don't ever comment about the I can't see. They just tell me, describe things for me. You know, avoid punitive comments. This is common with husband, spouse, children, parents. We see this at the Low Vision Resource Center from time to time when somebody comes in at the Prevention of Blindness Low Vision Resource Center to talk to a resource navigator and get one-on-one training, advice, observation, test out things. Children are often impatient with their 80-year-old parents, and that's not fair. A husband who can't see to drive, a wife having to do things for her husband for the first time in her life. Husband was super independent. It's easy to slip into a critical, punitive attitude, but that's really not fair to the person whose vision has gone downhill, because they didn't choose to do that. It's not their fault. It just, life isn't fair, and it happened to them. And always give positive encouragement when somebody does do something, when they've, even with their vision challenges, but because flat out, everybody needs positive encouragement every day. We all do, whether you can see or not. Okay, next. So I don't know if we should open this up to conversation, or would you like me to say what the resource center can offer? So I see another
Well, we've got
comment.
a question here. Can you give examples of punitive comments and attitudes?
Well, just saying, I don't know why you can't do that. You used to be able to do that on the computer. Or why did you chop those vegetables in such uneven chunks? I personally pride myself on my random size chopping. I make it a point of pride because I can't slice things evenly all of the time. And who cares? You're just going to eat it anyway, chew it up. So what if the chunks are a little bit different size? And my husband, bless his heart, never criticizes. I'm usually the one who comments about it and say, wow, here's your multi-size chunky vegetables tonight. It can be very subtle. It can be, why aren't you ready yet? If somebody's struggling to find something, I suffer from losing things in plain sight. My husband, and I'm up and downstairs. I look for my phone, the last place I left it. It's not there. I go downstairs. It's part of my exercise program. I come back upstairs. I've looked in the bathroom, I've looked in the bedroom, I've looked at somewhere else. And then I finally say to my husband, can you help me find my phone? And we've made it a joke that as soon as I ask him to help me find my phone, I find it. And it's usually where I looked the first time and it's been hiding in plain sight the whole time. I just didn't happen to see it. Um, it he doesn't criticize me for that, but it would be so easy for him to say, man, you waste my time. Why didn't you just look one more time? But he doesn't, bless his heart. So it's easy to be subtly critical of people, and they can be sensitive to it. Um, my husband is also very reassuring to me when I say I can't see to plug this in when I'm trying to connect a wire to a tiny little port on my computer or something. And he says, Sandy, I'm like, which is the volume or which is the whatever? And he'll point out to me, he says, even a person with good sight can't see that. And to me, that's sort of the opposite of punitive. He's encouraging me that things are designed that they're even difficult black on black for somebody with normal vision to see. So, and I'll say, wow, I just thought it was me because I couldn't see very well. And I was like, nope, I don't know, it's those crazy 20-year-olds designing technology these days make it really hard for everybody. So that's sort of the reverse of punitive, if that helps. Okay. How are we on time? I'll try to run through the next couple quickly. I want to give examples of what the Low Vision Resource Center, the Prevention of Blindness, has, one in Bethesda, one in Alexandria. Appointments are free. There's no insurance, no forms to fill out. If you can come prepared to say, what is your vision challenge? What is it you really want to know more about? Is it reading or is it transportation or what? We'll try to hit a little bit harder on that, but it can be a 1-hour conversation. So next slide, where we can tell you about resources. So you get to speak with I guess we call them resource navigators now, or resource specialists who are going to work with you one-on-one. Yes, you can bring a family member or friend, especially if somebody's giving you a ride there, but they can be a pair of ears listening to information and help you sort of retain information when, what you learned, what you observed, what worked, what didn't work for you. We can give you guidance on ways to read things more easily, alternative ways to read things. Lighting and contrast, those are way under recognized. To see things, you need the right light, the right colors, the right contrast. We can talk about transportation options, technology devices and apps. We can't give you in-depth lessons about those, but we can guide you to where you could get them. And you make an appointment by calling what we call our hotline. It's in Maryland, 301, and then it's a pattern on the keyboard diagonally, 951 and then 4444. That is a number I can actually memorize. And you can leave messages 24/7. We pick up the message and get back to you. It may be a couple of days. We don't work on weekends, obviously. So there was another question.
Have you noticed that because you have low vision service people, servers, etc., they think you can't hear? They don't mean to be offensive, but they talk louder to you because they know you can't see very well and things like that.
That happens frequently. And I mean, if it bothers you, be polite, and say, it's not my hearing that's an issue. It's oh goodness, I apologize. My phone's going off. It just very politely say, it's my vision, not my hearing, or something like that. Yes, people mistakenly do that frequently. But there's a lot of this punitive stuff. It really helps if you have a little bit of a thick skin and a sense of humor. don't forget a sense of humor. Things happen, but you got to roll with it. Okay, next slide. So magnification. So when I was volunteering at Dr. Alibai's office, and all of his patients were low vision, many were legally blind. But the first thing people complain about is generally, I can't read, I need better magnification. Well, buying a magnifying glass, it really helps to test it out first. Yes, there's magnifying glasses like Sherlock Holmes used, big round ones. You have to hold that just the right distance from what you're trying to magnify. You have to hold your head the right distance from the magnifying glass. And the magnifying glasses put a shadow on whatever you're trying to read in the first place. So a magnifying glass with a light in it can be helpful. The stronger the magnification, the less area you can look at one time. And coming to the Low Vision Resource Center and you say, oh, no, I have a 5X magnifying glass. I need a 10X. Well, we can show you a 10X and you can see that you'll be lucky to see something the area the size of a quarter. So we can really convince you that may not be the solution. It depends on what you're trying to do. And
Yeah, I
we
got
can
a
show,
comment.
okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we have a comment here from somebody who has a magnifying glass with a light in it.
And they're very helpful. That
Yeah.
a 3.5x magnifying glass with good optics and a light is probably the most common thing that Dr. Alibi prescribes. They're not cheap. We're talking close to $200, but that could really be worth it. But don't spend that money until you test it out and see if it's going to help you. There's also digital magnification. You can zoom in with a phone camera or, just to make things bigger. There's apps on phones for magnification, color enhancement. CCTVs are a large version of something that can magnify. And I used a CCTV. It has a screen the size of a computer monitor. While I was working, I used CCTVs to magnify articles that I needed to read. That may be a solution for doing hobbies, using a CCTV and holding your hands under and doing whatever detail work you want to do. But there's no guarantee, and they're not cheap. You're talking $2,000 and up. So testing one out at the Low Vision Resource Center before you spend that kind of money is a very smart thing to do. They have middle-sized digital magnifiers that kind of have a screen the size of a iPad that can be, are pretty portable. You can take with you if that's what works for you. And then there's very small, kind of the size of a smartphone, digital magnifiers that can invert the colors and do color enhancement and have, zoom capability that could be very helpful. But really, learning about the apps on smartphones that can magnify, even as simple as taking a picture with your camera and then zooming in on that picture. That's how I read. Are those Fuji apples? Are they Gala apples? And what price are they? I have a lot of pictures that I take at the grocery store to help me out. Okay, comments before we go on to the next?
One I had was, does Medicare cover any of these devices?
Pretty much not. For reasons I don't understand, even though they are medical devices, kind of like hearing aids to help you see, the American Council of the Blind has lobbied and lobbied and lobbied, and I think National Federation for the Blind has also pitched in. The lobbying continues to try to get Congress to recognize that these expensive items really are necessary. Now, if you're still working, the Department of Blind and Vision Impaired
Sandy, you seem to have frozen up.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now you're back.
Okay. Um, so Department of Blind and Vision Impaired can help buy digital devices for you. And if you're employed, your employer is supposed to make reasonable accommodations. But no, so far, Medicare, Medicaid won't buy these pieces of equipment.
Okay,
Okay.
first thing is we're about 10 minutes to 11, just so you
Okay.
know. And then we've got a comment here. My mother had macular degeneration. My brother got her a watch that would crow the hour and also set it up to crow a reminder to take her medication. She couldn't see her watch anymore, but I thought this was genius.
It is. And simple devices like that, I mean, that's a single use device in a sense. Smartphones can be programmed for when to take your glaucoma medicine and stuff. But for seniors, sometimes a single use device can be very helpful. And I think a little bit further down, I have um, a pretty reputable online place. And I can't promote anything in particular, but Independent Living Aids has a lot of things like that. Okay, but let's go to the next slide, unless there was another comment I missed.
Nope.
Okay. Lighting, glare, and contrast. Like I said, magnification can be important, but getting the right light, enough light. As our eyes age, we tend almost across the board to need more light, but we also don't need glare. The right color of the light. Incandescent bulbs were more yellowy. A lot of LED light bulbs are glaringly white bright. Um, but you can get more yellow end of the spectrum LED lights if you go to like 2500 kelvins. K kelvins is the color of the light. So again, you can test out things like this at the Low Vision Resource Center. You need the ambient light in the room. You may need an additional task light on the task you're trying to do. It might even be under kitchen cabinet lights to help you see in the kitchen, reducing the glare. So you need to have the light coming in the right direction, not in front of you, bouncing off what you're looking at and bouncing into your eyes. Have the light to the side or coming over your shoulder so that that light, extra light, is bouncing away from your eyes. Wear a ball cap or a hat when you're outdoors to reduce the glare from the bright blue sky. And even a gray, cloudy sky has a lot of glare bombarding your eyes all the time. Enhance the contrast. This is so super important for me. This contrast word on the page, it's white on black and black on white. I almost exclusively use a black or dark background when I can, because the white background is causing too much glare in my eyes, but that enhancing the contrast, white on black rather than light gray on dark gray or pink on darker pink, I mean, that would be low contrast. So making sure you have high contrast makes it easier. High contrast, okay, let's go to the next page also. Yeah, I think I've touched on a lot of these. Large print books and newspapers are available. Using other senses, you can have audio books. If you can no longer hold a book, you can be part of the Talking Books program. If you can no longer hold a book or see print, um, audio description at museums and performances in DC. They'll fill in description of what's going on the stage in between the dialogue. It's awesome. Technology and apps, smartphones. Yes, we can go to voice commands for things like, herself and other things. There's more and more voice command stuff out there. Wearable devices are like glasses with a camera on the side that that takes pictures of stuff, and you can interact and get descriptions of the what you're looking at. Those are very expensive. That's really way down the road if you really, really can't see. Okay, I hope
I've
I've
got a comment here from somebody that has a ball cap with a built-in light for walking the dog at night. That way she doesn't have to carry a flashlight.
Right. I know. I've seen those. They're pretty hilarious and but useful. I mean, hilarious in a good way. I use my hug light, a book reading light that hangs around my neck that has two lights on it. I can adjust the brightness, I can adjust the color, yellow, bluish or white, and I can low, medium, or high. I use those like a flashlight for walking around at night. Anyway, let's one more comment.
There's somebody asking Pat where she got the hat with the light in it.
Amazon, I bet.
Amazon, of course. Yep.
Anyway, next slide. I hope I'm done. One more slide.
It's up.
Okay. Yeah. So, and one more contact information. And what I wanted to point out is that there's also a handout that Liz and Carolyn have that they can share with everybody, which has, you know, places to go buy stuff, resources. One thing I forgot to touch on was rehabilitation if you have vision challenges. The Department of Blind and Vision Impaired in Virginia serves the whole state of Virginia. National Federation of the Blind in Virginia has a program called Silver Bells that Sandy Halverson is very involved in. Dorothy and I attended the session in Sterling this year. It was sort of like a 2-day immersion of being introduced to resources to help people who can't see well enough to do things for themselves, be independent, live a safe, fulfilling, happy life. You can do it with, you know, you may have to find a different new way to do it, but you absolutely can live a happy, independent life with the right training and the right resources and the right attitude and being willing to learn how to do things and modify how you do things. Okay. Whew, I think that's it for me. But the resource handout, it's about 5 pages with big headings. It doesn't have everything because we'd be here till day after tomorrow with resources, but it's a starter kit for where to turn. And people who can still see and want to be helpful to people who can't, volunteer for these organizations, volunteer for prevention of blindness. There's a lot of good out there you can do in this world.
Okay, we have one last question. Isn't there a resource center in Alexandria?
Yes, it's at 105 South Alfred Street. It's it's a resource center about, I think it's just Mondays, 1 day a month. I mean, excuse me, 1 day a week. If the demand goes up, it might be a resource center 2 days a week. But the one in Bethesda is open Thursdays, and Fridays, 2 days a week, generally speaking. But call that hotline number 301-951 diagonal on your keypad 4444 and leave your name, phone number. You'd like an appointment at the Low Vision Resource Center. You're having issues, trouble with XYZ.
Okay, well, if there are any last questions or comments, now's the time. I don't see any, so I'd like to say thank you, Sandy. This was very informative.
Yep.
You're an excellent speaker.
Thank you. And I understand you put this out on YouTube.
Yes.
And if
Yeah.
people want the slides of the presentation, that's okay if you share them, but more helpful would be the 5 pages of resources, the handout, just the places to turn to. I think that might be more helpful for people. But either one you can share.
Okay,
If
we'll
I can
make
just,
sure that. Go
can
ahead.
quick, I didn't get my chat in soon enough, but I wanted to say I'd be very interested if there is enough interest within ANV to try to set up our own support group where we could, you know, share information about new products that we've tried out, or maybe organize a group trip to the resource center, whatever. So I just like to put that out there. If any people on this call are interested to contact me, Susan Wallace. Okay.
And Susan's absolutely right. Support groups are a really good informal way to just say, I recently discovered such and such, and it's good because of this, like the free apps for your phone, Seeing AI, Be My Eyes, and Envision AI. And you can play around with those together, or you can point out how useful it's been to you, or you can ask a question. I can't find a pen and a piece of paper that work well for me. What do other people use?
Yep.
And just the being with your peers, starting to go to low vision support groups and now leading them. I can't tell you. I often I feel like these are my people. I am in my comfort zone in a low vision support group. It's really hilarious that I didn't envision that happening before. While I was working, I didn't have time to go to a support group. I had my life under control kind of thing. But once I started going more frequently, I was like, wow, these are my people. They get it. They understand how I can spill glasses of white wine in a clear glass. Darn it, I just paid $9 for that at the restaurant and it's now on the table. Oh, well. You know, and they can nod and laugh with me. We can all tell stories about, yep, we went into the men's room by mistake, but oh well. Now there's gender neutral restrooms, which is actually making my life a lot simpler. Reading a sign at an airport, trying to figure out where's the gate number. I walked up and down a concourse at Dulles Airport years ago looking for the gate number. I was by myself. And I finally stopped a guy who must have been a pilot. He had a uniform on. He had the attitude, stance, and walk of a pilot. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, I know this isn't in your job description, but could you help me find the gate number? I'm looking for gate 53." And the gentleman turns partway and reaches his arm up, which isn't what I like, but I was able to follow the direction of his arm. I look at the wall. I was looking for something too small. The numbers 53 were 6 feet high on the wall. I had the wrong concept.
I just put the document you were talking about, the notes, in the chat, so people, I hope, can click on it and get the document.
That's awesome. I didn't know that was possible.
It took a little juggling.
And we can also get those to the office, so anybody contacts the office can get a copy.
So that was wonderful.
Sandy, thank you so much. This was really great. In fact, it was probably a reminder that it might be time for me to do a podcast about low vision. So I will definitely keep it in mind and look forward to getting those resources as well, since Aging Matters goes all over the country now. So it would be helpful to see what kind of resources are available in connection with low vision in other parts of the country. So I will follow up as well. So thank you. This was really a very timely presentation.
Great. And the American Council of the Blind has a chapter that's called AAVL.
Okay.
I believe it's Aging Adults with Vision Loss. And Doug Powell, who lives in one of the A cities, I believe, Sandy Halverson might know exactly where he lives. He lives close to you, Arlington or Alexandria. He's the president of that chapter, and he has been gung-ho about getting county and state type aging adult programs to recognize that aging adults have a higher prevalence of vision loss, and that's impacting their lives and their independence.
Well, I will definitely follow up, and if I need to get more information, I will be back in touch with you since I know where you are. So, thank you. This was I'm beginning to think about ideas for September, and I thought, this might be something that I'd like to feature. So, well, it's after 11:05. So just remind folks that next week, August 7th, we'll have George Mason University cultural historian Michael O'Malley, who explores the history of racial classification. And he wrote a book called The Color of Family: History, Race, and the Politics of Ancestry. So another very, very excellent presentation that's planned next week, 10 o'clock on Wednesday, and hope to see all of you there. So have a
Thank
good
you.
week and stay cool. It's great